The Cold War, 1947–1991, was a period of intense geopolitical rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union and their respective allies. It was a global ideological struggle between capitalism and communism, democracy and authoritarianism, that shaped international relations for over 4 decades. While the two superpowers never directly engaged in open warfare, the threat of nuclear annihilation loomed large, leading to proxy wars, an arms race, espionage, and intense propaganda campaigns. Origins of the Cold War. Several factors contributed to the emergence of the Cold War. Ideological differences. The United States and the Soviet Union represented fundamentally opposing systems of government and economic organization. The U.S. championed democracy and capitalism, emphasizing individual freedoms and free markets. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, promoted a communist ideology characterized by state control of the economy and a one-party political system. These contrasting worldviews fostered deep suspicion and mistrust. World War II aftermath. The end of World War II left the United States and the Soviet Union as the two dominant global powers. The collapse of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan created a power vacuum in Europe and Asia, leading to competing interests and spheres of influence. The Soviet Union's westward expansion into Eastern Europe to create a buffer zone against future invasions was perceived by the West as a violation of self-determination and a move towards communist expansion. Mistrust and suspicion. Historical grievances and differing interpretations of wartime agreements, particularly the Yalta and Potsdam conferences, further exacerbated tensions. The Soviet Union's delay in joining the war against Japan and the Western Allies' initial exclusion from Soviet-occupied territories fueled mutual suspicion. The atomic bomb. The United States' development and use of atomic weapons against Japan in 1945 significantly altered the balance of power. The Soviet Union's determination to acquire its own nuclear arsenal initiated a dangerous arms race, heightening fears of a potential nuclear conflict. Key phases and events of the Cold War. The Cold War unfolded through various phases, marked by periods of heightened tension, proxy conflicts, and attempts at détente. Early Cold War, 1947–1953. The Truman Doctrine, 1947. In response to perceived Soviet expansionism in Eastern Europe and the Mediterranean, President Truman declared that the United States would provide political, military, and economic assistance to democratic nations under threat from authoritarian forces. This policy of containment became a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy throughout the Cold War. The Marshall Plan, 1948. The United States launched the European Recovery Program, providing substantial economic aid to war-torn Western European countries. The aim was to rebuild their economies, strengthen democratic institutions, and prevent the spread of communism. The Berlin Blockade, 1948–1949. When the Soviet Union blocked all land and water access to West Berlin, the Western Allies responded with a massive airlift operation, supplying the city with essential goods for nearly a year until the Soviets lifted the blockade. This event was a major early test of wills and a significant victory for the West. The formation of NATO, 1949. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was established as a military alliance among Western European and North American nations to provide collective security against Soviet aggression. The Soviet atomic bomb, 1949. The successful testing of the Soviet Union's first atomic bomb ended the U.S. nuclear monopoly and escalated the arms race. The Korean War, 1950–1953. The invasion of South Korea by Communist North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union and China, led to a United Nations intervention led by the United States. The war ended in a stalemate, solidifying the division of the Korean Peninsula and highlighting the dangers of proxy conflicts. Escalation and confrontation, 1953–1962. The Warsaw Pact, 1955. In response to West Germany joining NATO, the Soviet Union and its Eastern European allies formed the Warsaw Pact, a military alliance that mirrored NATO. The Space Race, 1957–1975. The Soviet Union's launch of Sputnik, the first artificial satellite, ignited a technological and ideological competition with the United States in space exploration. The Cuban Revolution, 1959. The rise of Fidel Castro's communist regime in Cuba, a nation close to the United States, created a major point of tension. Asterisk the U-2 incident, 1960, the downing of an American U-2 spy plane over Soviet airspace led to the cancellation of a summit between President Eisenhower and Premier Khrushchev, further damaging relations. Asterisk the Berlin Crisis of 1961, the Soviet Union demanded the withdrawal of Western forces from West Berlin, leading to increased tensions and the construction of the Berlin Wall, which physically symbolized the division of Europe. Asterisk the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, the discovery of Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. A tense standoff between President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev was resolved through diplomatic negotiations, with the Soviets agreeing to remove the missiles in exchange for a U.S. pledge not to invade Cuba and a secret agreement to remove American missiles from Turkey. Dayent and renewed tension, 1963–1979. Asterisk the Limited Test Ban Treaty, 1963, following the Cuban Missile Crisis, the United States, the Soviet Union, and the United Kingdom signed a treaty prohibiting nuclear weapons tests in the atmosphere, outer space, and underwater. Asterisk the Vietnam War, 1955–1975, the United States became increasingly involved in the Vietnam War to prevent the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. The prolonged and costly war divided American society and significantly impacted U.S. foreign policy. Asterisk Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, SALT I and II, the United States and the Soviet Union engaged in negotiations to limit the production of strategic nuclear weapons, leading to the SALT I Treaty in 1972 and the unratified SALT II Treaty in 1979. These talks represented an effort to manage the arms race and reduce tensions. Asterisk the Helsinki Accords, 1975, a conference on security and cooperation in Europe resulted in agreements on human rights, political and territorial boundaries, and economic and cultural cooperation, representing a step towards Dayent. Asterisk Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, 1979, the Soviet Union's intervention in Afghanistan to support a communist regime led to a US-backed insurgency and a renewed period of Cold War tension. The end of the Cold War, 1980–1991. Asterisk the Reagan buildup. President Ronald Reagan pursued a more assertive foreign policy, increasing military spending and challenging Soviet influence globally. Asterisk Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI. Reagan proposed a space-based missile defense system, dubbed Star Wars, which the Soviets viewed as a destabilizing escalation of the arms race. Asterisk Gorbachev's reforms. Mikhail Gorbachev's rise to power in the Soviet Union brought about significant reforms, including glasnost, openness, and perestroika, economic restructuring, which loosened state control and fostered greater political freedom. Asterisk Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, INF, Treaty, 1987, the United States and the Soviet Union agreed to eliminate all intermediate range nuclear missiles, a significant step in arms control. Asterisk the Fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989, popular protests and the changing political climate in Eastern Europe led to the dismantling of the Berlin Wall, a symbolic event marking the end of the division of Germany and Europe. Asterisk the Collapse of Communism in Eastern Europe, 1989–1991, one by one, communist regimes in Eastern European countries fell as a result of popular uprisings and the Soviet Union's unwillingness to intervene. Asterisk the Dissolution of the Soviet Union, 1991, internal political and economic pressures, coupled with the rise of nationalist movements, led to the collapse of the Soviet Union into 15 independent republics, officially marking the end of the Cold War. Impact and legacy of the Cold War. The Cold War had a profound and lasting impact on the world. Asterisk Global political realignment. The Cold War shaped the formation of numerous alliances and international organizations, such as NATO and the Warsaw Pact. The collapse of the Soviet Union led to a new world order, with the United States as the sole superpower for a time. Asterisk the Nuclear Age. The arms race led to the development of massive nuclear arsenals, creating a constant threat of global annihilation. While the Cold War ended without a nuclear exchange, the existence of these weapons continues to pose a significant challenge to international security. Asterisk Proxy wars and regional conflicts. The superpowers supported opposing sides in numerous regional conflicts around the world, including Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan, often with devastating consequences for the local populations. Asterisk Technological innovation. The competition between the United States and the Soviet Union spurred rapid advancements in various fields, including military technology, space exploration, and computer science, leading to innovations that continue to shape modern society. Ideological influence. The Cold War had a significant impact on the cultures and ideologies of nations worldwide. The struggle between democracy and communism influenced political movements and social values across the globe. Economic impact. The arms race placed a significant economic burden on both superpowers, particularly the Soviet Union, which contributed to its eventual collapse. The Cold War also shaped global trade patterns and economic alliances. Enduring tensions. While the Cold War is over, some of the underlying tensions and geopolitical rivalries persist in new forms, influencing contemporary international relations. The legacy of the Cold War continues to shape global alliances, regional conflicts, and the ongoing challenges of nuclear proliferation. In conclusion, the Cold War was a defining period of the 20th century, characterized by intense ideological conflict and geopolitical rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. While direct military confrontation was avoided, the Cold War shaped global politics, fueled proxy conflicts, spurred technological advancements, and left a lasting legacy that continues to influence the world today.